Okay, welcome everyone. I hope you all are logging on to our COVID-19 business series, Resources for Recovery. I imagine we'll have a few logging on as we begin because it's just now turning 11, but we did want to welcome you thoroughly to this webinar. I'm going to turn this over directly to the president of the Greater San Marcos Partnership, Mr. Jason Giulietti, who is joining us in transit. Jason, would you like to share a few words with the folks?
Thank you, Barbara, and thank you for our speakers, first off, and secondly, of course, our attendees. On behalf of the partnership, we appreciate you attending today and participating in today's series, as well as the future opportunities that we're going to be putting before you. The whole premise of this is really to be responsive to the data that we've collected during the COVID-19 crisis and evaluating what resources we can help bring to bear for businesses and employees during this very challenging time, understanding that non-financial resources are equally as important as those financial resources, and in helping the business community get through this and ultimately come stronger than they have going into it. So with that, we thank you again for your participation. We're excited to share with you today's speakers and encourage you to be interactive, encourage you to participate, and certainly look forward to your questions and all that we can do to help you and the business community and the employees within Hays and Caldwell County achieve the goals of becoming stronger post-COVID-19. So thank you again, and look forward to a great conversation and great meeting. So thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Jason. And you have a good meeting as well. So my name is Barbara Thomason. I'm Director of Workforce Development, Business Retention, and Expansion at the partnership, which means I'm responsible for the development of the current and future workforce of Hays and Caldwell counties and ensuring our business community enjoys the healthiest economic environment possible in which to do business. I'm joined today by Ms. Katie Haar. Katie, give everyone a wave. She is an intern at the partnership as well. She is serving as our technical producer today. We're very grateful for her skills and talents today. So thank you, Katie, for being with us. Before we get started on this session, I wanted to share with you about upcoming sessions in hopes that you will find interest and register. A week from today, we're going to be focusing on short and long-term business resiliency. I really wanted to call this session Show Me the Money because we have experts from the SBDC, from SCORE, from People Fund and Lift Fund and Texas Workforce Commission. And they are going to be able to help you with some funding opportunities. A week later, we're going to be sharing about our regional support system in Hays and Caldwell County, our economic development organizations, our chambers, our Main Street organizations, some of its funding support, some of its other kinds of support as well. And then a week later, there'll be a fun session on what we call creative capacity building. So we'll have a representative from Splash, and we'll have Michael Kammerlander, who is with the Economic Development Organization in Lockhart, Texas. And he's going to be sharing some information about angel funding and other unique resources available to you. So you can see at the bottom of this slide, there is a link which you can go to find out more details and to register for any of those sessions. So hope you'll join us. So today, the way we're going to handle questions and answers is you will find a Q&A box at the bottom of your slide or the bottom of your screen, and you will see questions when they are answered. Now, we're going to hold most of the questions to the end of our session today. However, if there's a simple question, a clarifying question that a speaker can answer during their presentation, we'll go ahead and pass it through to them. But most questions will be held to the end. Those questions that are asked most frequently will be given priority. So you may not get your question answered today. However, at the very end of the session, we will show a slide with all of the presenters' contact information so that you can get that down and you can reach out to them directly to get your question answered. So we wanted this to be as interactive as possible within the time limits that we have. So save your questions up, make a note of them, and we'll get back to you. So this is our lineup for today. Now, these experts were chosen because of the criticality and the time-sensitive nature of the information they're sharing. We know that, for example, there's new information that's just come out on the Paycheck Protection Program. You need to know that now. There's new information coming out all the time. There are critical issues related to your hiring and your obligations with regard to the PPP and idle funds. So these experts were chosen because they need to get to you right away. Some of the other experts that will be speaking to you in subsequent weeks will be building on that. So we're going to kick things off today with Ms. Kelly Spillane. She is the small business advocate for the Office of Governor Greg Abbott. Kelly works with new and existing small businesses across the state, supporting growth and success and the Texas economy. She has over 15 years entrepreneurial experience in food and tech startups, and she's also worked for the venture capital arm of the Irish government, Enterprise Ireland, which is the largest investor in startups in the European Union. So Kelly, take it away, please, and share with us how Texas businesses can access the governor's office, please.
Great, and thank you, Barbara. And thank you so much for including me in your webinar. I'm delighted to be here and delighted to talk to your community and try to be helpful. So I'm going to share my screen now. Is that okay? Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing your screen and share mine. Okay. Excuse me for this pause. Now I'm hoping that you can see what I'm seeing. And I always like to kick off with this slide because it reminds us how great Texas is and how great a state it is to do business in. And these are things that others say about Texas. And I know that times are hard. It's been hard on everybody, particularly small businesses, but I'd like to remind ourselves we're lucky to be in Texas. It's the best state in the union to do business in. Okay. Again, I'm trying to move the slide. There we go. My next slide really is just talking about the Office of the Governor and the governor himself and how important small businesses are to the governor of Texas. 97% of the businesses in Texas are small. Those small businesses are critical to this economy. The governor has been really focused on doing his very best to help them stay open and keep moving and keep operating. Early on in the crisis, when we were all locked down and things were very, very bleak indeed, he instituted a number of waivers, again, to help certain small businesses to try to stay alive. I think one of the more popular ones was the waiver to allow restaurants to deliver alcoholic beverages with food to go and food for delivery, and that has been so successful that has stayed alive essentially as a waiver and may well last long into the future. There were several other waivers. There are links there to the whole lot, the complete set of waivers, and also all of the executive orders if anybody's interested. I'll mention a couple of other waivers. There was one that enabled restaurants to sell bulk product at a time when groceries were hard to get. Restaurants could sell directly to the public unopened bulk product, which again was really useful to the community in general. The restaurants could sell and the consumers could buy. And several other waivers to do with event permits being enabled to be refunded, the cost of those, and to enable alcohol delivery trucks to deliver groceries at a time when groceries were so hard to get. And I guess I will just move along to say that, you know, I think we all know this, the health and safety of Texans and Texan businesses is at the forefront of the governor's mind. It's on all of our minds in what we do and in all of the communications that I have with the small businesses and people that I speak to every single day. And so I've included links here for safety protocols and checklists for businesses, for best practice safety guidelines from the Department of State Health Services, and then also OSHA guidelines. These are all useful for anybody who is operating or thinking about operating and reopening, depending on how things go. So these are just here as a resource. I'll talk about my particular team. So I'm on the small business assistance team. There are 5 of us. We are focused on serving the small businesses of Texas every single day. We take calls, we deal with emails, and our primary goal is to try to connect people, business owners, with the right resources for them at this time. There's a link to the coronavirus resources that we have compiled. It's a vast repository of resources. Most of them are Texas state resources, but federal are included. Information about the SBA products that Joe Harper is going to talk about later, and pretty much every resource we can find out about is there on that coronavirus resource link. I'm providing our small business email address. If people have particular questions that don't get answered today or that come up for them in the future, you can email us. We will help you get answers. Again, to help people get answers, we run webinars every second week now. We have, actually, we were running them every week for the first 7 weeks, and we are running them every second week now. The focus is on getting updated information to the small businesses of Texas. A lot of the focus is on the Small Business Administration funding, but other resources as well, and strategies that people can implement to try to stay alive, and keep their businesses going through this unprecedented time. So there's a link there for anyone who's interested in registering for our webinar. We're having one in an hour. We're having one at 1 p.m. today, and then in 2 weeks' time, and every 2 weeks after that. You can also look at that link there, the YouTube link. That's a link to all of the webinars we've done to date. There's fantastic information and questions being answered in those webinars. We deal with questions that come up a lot for us, so frequently asked questions, but then live questions from the audience as well get dealt with. We usually have Small Business Administration, Small Business Development Center, and TWC experts on our panel to deal with those most important questions. And we have some of those people here today, which is great for the community of San Marcos. Other parts of our team include our permits office. We have an expert there on permitting and licensing. I have provided links there to their frequently asked questions. And also, if anybody happens to be in the film business or in the music business, we have teams that deal with both of those sectors, and they have compiled resources specific to those sectors as well. I'm just going to mention, because I know that Joe Harper later on is going to talk about the Small Business Administration loans. He is an absolute expert and totally up to date on that, and he's going to provide information. But just as an alternative source of funding, because either businesses already have their SBA loans and are looking ahead thinking, I'm going to need some more money, I am raising this as a possibility. The Community Development Financial Institutions, CDFIs, are also a possibility for some businesses. I give you links to the 3 bigger ones across Texas right there. The Office of the Governor actually part funds some of those organizations too. And so we get behind those organizations. They're a little different from banks. Their focus is on serving businesses that may not be served by conventional banks. They are private nonprofit institutions, and they lend on very business-friendly terms. And I would highly recommend you look into those. These, like I said, those 3 are the ones that are probably the most relevant to this community. In addition to CDFIs, there is a Main Street lending program that is available through high street banks that is backed by the Federal Reserve. And again, it is a response to the coronavirus crisis. It's an additional potential source of funding. Again, the terms are business friendly. And that is going to be available to all businesses potentially, especially those that may engage with high street banks. And there is a link right there. Coming towards the end of my few minutes, I just want to highlight that social media marketing is critical to everybody, as we've seen in this lockdown that we have had, and in an environment where people can't just walk in the door as they used to. Being able to communicate with them online, being able to raise your profile online is critical, and frankly, into the future is going to become ever more critical. And so if you do it, perhaps you need to think about doing it better. If you don't do it, you need to do it. In any case, I have links here for free training that these big players offer. Google, Facebook, eBay, Amazon, Twitter, they all have training as to how to optimize their platforms, whether it's for social media marketing and profile raising, or whether it's for e-commerce. And so if you look at these training resources, you can learn about how to do it better. You can even become an expert yourself and become certified and sell your services as an additional string to your bow if that's for you. but in any case, I think it's really important to know that you can become expert in using these platforms for your business to optimize your business, and you can do this for free. My last slide here is just talking about SCORE, which is a national free mentoring service. And I think it's been never more important than now to reach out and get help, to reach out and get advice. And you can do that through SCORE, and it's free. They will help you find a mentor with the right experience and the right expertise to help you optimize your business, to help you tackle challenges. And I know that we all have many right now. And so I think if you haven't been in touch with SCORE, do reach out. They will help you find someone who can help you cope better and grow your business. And just one final comment on the Small Business Administration. They have a partnership with universities across the country. In Texas, they have 40 partnerships. These partnerships are called Small Business Development Centers. Like I said, they are a partnership between the SBA and universities, and their purpose is to help support the small business community with their challenges. They provide free advice. They will help you with applications for SBA funding. They will help you with business strategy, in particular financial strategy. And these organizations are run and populated by experts who know what they're talking about, and they will help you, again, at no cost to you. And there's a link to find one nearest you. And I believe our speaker, Joe Harper, may well be working in the Small Business Development Center that is nearest to San Marcos, and you will be hearing from Joe shortly. And that is all I have to share in terms of slides, and I'll stop sharing. And I will just thank you again for allowing me to participate and giving me a few minutes to talk about what we do at the Office of the Governor. And just to finish up, I'll just summarize by saying that our purpose really is to help the small businesses across Texas to listen, to connect, to advise, and fundamentally feed up the line to policymakers and the legislature about things that could be done to make a difference for Texan small businesses. I did include my email address for our team, and I welcome anybody if they want to reach out directly. And so thank you, and over to you, Barbara.
Thank you, Kelly. That was very helpful. And again, I'll mention that if you want to register and log in at 1 o'clock, I think Kelly is hosting another webinar about the new developments with the PPP offering. So what you may hear a little bit about here, you can go in depth at 1 o'clock with the webinar then. So to provide an update here on the Payroll Protection Program, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, and other resources available through the SBDC at Texas State University, we have invited Mr. Joe Harper, who is the executive director there. Joe's directed many other SBDC programs across the state. He has a Bachelor of Arts degree in management, an MBA, and extensive business consulting experience. So Joe, I'm going to put you on speaker view and let you share with us the many, many resources you all have available.
Thank you, Barbara, and thank you, Kelly, for a great lead in there and support for our program, the SBDC. So I've got just a few minutes here to kind of go over quickly what's going on with EIDL and PPP. And for the most part, these programs have been somewhat successful, even though they've had somewhat of a rocky start. But with new rounds of money and some follow-on work with compliance, everything is still ongoing, but I kind of want to put it all in perspective. Hot off the presses this morning, just visited with those folks in the know, and the EIDL loan program advanced portion closed this past Monday. So that's no longer on the table, but the EIDL program itself still is, and that portal is now open. It has opened and closed over a period of time, helping them manage the flow. But EIDL is still open. I haven't been given any notification of when they expect EIDL to close, but the portal is open now and taking applications as we go. Now, the PPP program obviously has undergone quite a bit of changes, and this latest round of funding is now being extended to August the 8th, and I'm hearing rumors that it may go further than that, but right now there's about $100 billion left in the PPP program. So there is still applications being taken. However, not all banks are participating because many of the banks now have sort of run their capacity and they're pulling back. But there are still some and we do have that list. It's probably on our website. I got a new listing yesterday. I'm not sure it's been updated today, but it will be by the end of today. But in addition to the new rounds of applications, the guidelines have been updated as well. And Paycheck Protection Plan, which was to assist the small businesses impacted by COVID-19 with their cash flow, to maintain their workforce and to cover other fixed expenses during an 8-week period designated as the disaster period from February 15th for 8 weeks. Those original terms were 1% for 2 years with no collateral, no personal guarantee, and deferred payments for up to 6 months, with forgivable if 75% of the funds were used to pay payroll. A lot of things we went through, it has changed, and I'll talk about that in a minute. We had 8 weeks from the time the money was dispensed for you to spend that money as well. Now, what's changed? As a result of the delays in getting the money out and establishing clear guidelines, and determining what the paper trail would need to look like, what many of the changes emerged related to keeping employees in play, bringing employees back, challenges that we've had with bringing employees back. And the 8 weeks became impossible target for some, and early guidelines led to confusion on what to count and what not to count as payroll. So where we are now is that 75% now moved to 60%. And the borrowers could receive a partial forgiveness if they fell below that. So you're not totally out of the game of forgiveness, even if you fall below the 60%. The 2-year term is now a 5-year term, so that what got converted to a note is now a little easier on your cash flow. It went from 2 years to 5 years. And the 8-week spending timeline is now an option. You can do it in 8 weeks, or you can extend it to 24 weeks. The challenge with extending it to the 24 weeks is that maintaining that same number of employees, or maintaining the compliance related to the employee count and the employee and the payroll, will have to extend with the 24 weeks as well. So if you're in a situation where you've sort of thought about what is my business going to look like going forward, and to actually sustain myself long term, I may need to make decisions about cuts in payroll. If you choose that 24 weeks, you're going to have to extend those employees for that and that payroll for that 24 weeks as well to be in compliance. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of what's happened in San Marcos, we've done 798 PPP loans since the process begun. 702 of those loans are less than 150,000. 96 of those loans are over 150,000, and the probably about 8 of those, somewhere in between 6 and 8 of those, are $1 million or $5 million plus loans. But the vast majority were between 150 and 350, and the total amount of loans there is just over 60 million at this point. So and that's just for San Marcos. What's happened now is we've begun to shift from the forgiveness stage, or shift to the forgiveness stage now, where we've looked at helping businesses make application, making sure that still helping businesses make application as it's appropriate, making sure that they're maintaining the compliance documentations and those sort of things going forward so that they remain eligible for the forgiveness. And now it's open season for forgiveness. So now they're beginning to make those applications. The Form 3508 and the Form 3508EZ forms are the forms that you would use to apply for forgiveness, and businesses have to make application. It's not automatic. You're going to have to go to the bank of record who issued the PPP, who's managing the PPP, and you're going to have to fill out those forms and ask for that forgiveness. There are conditions of whether you do the 3508 long form versus the 3508 EZ. Basically, if you are in compliance, use the short form, the 2-page form. If you are asking for exception, then you're going to have to go to long form. And the SBDC can work with you on which form is right for you and how do you make application with that form, that sort of thing. Most of the information, the forms, the information, instructions on how to fill those forms out, all of that is on the SBA website. So it's fairly easy to follow. Maybe a little harder to actually pull the documentation together than it is to follow the instructions. But the next stage that we're starting to look at now, beyond that, we've developed 6 stages of assistance for, starting with the emergency funding, which was the PPP, the EIDL. Also, there's a renewed interest in debt relief. So if you have a loan that was on the books, an SBA product that's on the books, if it was on the books prior to the event, there was an automatic deferment that kicked in for 6 months. Well, actually, but not a deferment. It actually made the payments, excuse me. They would make 6 months of actual payments of that loan. And you were not responsible for repaying that back. The SBA steps up and makes those payments. That also extended to loans made during the period as well. So you need to work with your bank and see what your eligibility is for the debt relief program, because I do understand a lot of activities been working around that as well. So any new loans that are SBA products, the SBA will pick up those payments for 6 months as well. But you'll need to work with your bank to ensure that goes forward. The 6 stages that we talked about was assisting and starting with the emergency fund. The second stage was compliance that we began to work on early, making sure that you're documenting your paperwork, you're doing the things that you need to do. Then we began to talk about the restart strategy. A lot of what the governors talked about in terms of safety first and how do you restart your business, that sort of thing. We're in the forgiveness phase now, where we're starting to talk about making application forgiveness and how do you go about doing that. We're also beginning to emerge into the rethinking your business for sustainability, so that we sort of help you rethink what your business is going to look like going forward, what's your market going to look like, how has all of this impacted the supply chain. All of the things necessary to help you be healthy are the things that we're going to be focusing on for sustainability. And then the last phase would be the long-term strategy for growth. We have set up a program. It's called the SBDC COVID Business Recovery Accelerator. I don't think they could have made the name any longer. I think they tried, but we stopped them at that. Texas State will have, within the next 6 weeks, we'll have our team on board for that recovery accelerator. Currently, it's being operated out of UTSA, out of the SBDC there at UTSA. That website would be txsbdc.org/businessrecovery /. And the phone number there is 210-458-2278. This is an organization that was funded by the CARES Act and is totally focused on addressing all of the issues related to COVID for small businesses. So anybody that has a question needs to get an answer. They have promised us that we would get the answers within 24-hour period. So you ask the question, we'll find the answer, connect with us through that. So that's sort of what's new, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that come up at the end of the presentation. And thank you all so much for giving me your time and allowing me to share this information.
Thank you so much, Joe. That was very helpful, and I know we probably will have some questions. And again, I'll mention next week, Rex Steele from the SBDC, who is part of Joe's team, will be going into this as well. So now we have a couple of representatives from Texas Workforce Commission, Workforce Solutions. First, Diane Tackett. She's the Chief Operating Officer for Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area, and she'll be able to share with us resources employers can access for hiring and training. Diane has worked in public sector implementation and management of workforce development and child care development fund programs for 20 years. She started when she was 16, I think. She graduated from the University of Texas at Austin with a Master's of Science in Social Work. Please join me in welcoming Diane Tackett.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, and thank you, Barbara. Give me just a second while I share my screen. I do have a little bit of information I'd like to share with you today about Workforce Solutions and the services that we provide. So just to kind of level set with everybody, Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area is the organization that provides career development, workforce development services for the 9-county area around Travis County. And part of that area includes Hays County and Caldwell County, so I'm very excited to be here today. I did want to give just a little bit of background about the services that we provide to the community in general, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what we're doing specifically for promoting business recovery and being able to support businesses during this and hopefully post-COVID pandemic that's occurring. So just kind of in general, Workforce Solutions is the convener of workforce development services, and we work to identify the needs of employers and connect job seekers with those employers so that employers can hire and maintain a skilled, strong workforce to be able to achieve their goals. And we kind of do this in 2 different ways. So the first thing that I want to talk about just kind of quickly is the services to job seekers and parents. And so we provide a lot of the general services that you would consider would be workforce development. We help with resume creation, filling out applications. We help with interview preparation. We provide workshops and virtual events for job seekers to participate in to prepare for job search. We also offer training and upskilling opportunities for those job seekers. And then on the employer side, we work specifically with employers to identify the training needs that they have to ensure that their workforce is skilled and stable and strong. We look for any gaps in those training needs or look for gaps to help employers improve their workforce. And then we also try to build the connection. So we will do job posting announcements, we'll do recruitment, we do pre-screening for employers as well. And then we also provide general information about the economy and the labor market for each of the counties in the 9-county area. So I wanted to talk a little bit more. Let's see if I can progress. There we go. So currently, when we're looking at specific COVID recovery services for employers, there's 4 different initiatives that we have in place that I wanted to highlight today. The first one is called Jobs Now. So if you are a business who has reopened and you have critical hiring needs, we have a way of displaying that job posting directly on our website and through our social media to get those vacancy notices out to job seekers who would be able to connect with them immediately and be able to submit their resume or application to help fill your employment need very quickly. Another thing that we offer are what we call our career lattices. And this is a way where we can visibly highlight the dynamics of career change and career progression. So it kind of helps job seekers and helps businesses with different vacancies see how a job seeker or how an employee would be able to progress through a career using those different postings as a starting point for their career progression. One of the things that we're really excited about is Rural Capital Headlight. And so a lot of times we hear about labor market information and labor market data and trends either at the national level or at the state level, but what we've been able to do is kind of compress that information and filter it so that we've got better information about the labor market and career services that are in the impacts to that labor market that are happening in each of our 9-county areas. And we use this information in addition to what we get from economic development councils, chambers of commerce, and different employers, and our training provider community to help identify what the training or upskilling needs might be for the community and try to make sure that those offerings that we have available are going to meet the employer needs. And so Headlight is a great way to see that demographic information. And what we've done recently is upgrade that to also show what the COVID impact has been for each county. So when you go to Headlight, you're going to be able to see what the number of UI claimants looks like for those counties, kind of the industries and occupations affected, and how we're using that information to prepare for supporting businesses as they begin to recover. One of the final things that we've implemented is Workforce Wednesdays. And so with the transition that so many employers have started to go to, and that we've seen with our job seekers, to being able to access services virtually, or being able to, or interested in remote work or teleworking opportunities, this was a great opportunity for us to begin to present our hiring events in a virtual environment. So instead of having job seekers go to a central location to meet with several employers, each Wednesday we sponsor a Workforce Wednesday hiring event where employers with vacancies can just register, and they'll have a booth available that lists all their different job postings and vacancies. And then in real time, job seekers will be able to attend that booth virtually and ask questions and submit applications and get more information from that employer about the positions that are available. So it's been a nice connection. And what we've seen compared to, kind of pre-COVID in-person hiring events is probably a 3 to 4 time increase in the number of participants and the number of employers that are participating in these events. It's so much more accessible and so much more reasonable for people to connect that way. So we're pretty excited about that. But in addition to those things, as we're talking about COVID recovery, it's important that we also talk about the services specifically to businesses that Workforce Solutions offers. So two services that unfortunately we've had to utilize more than we wanted to in the past few months are layoff aversion activities and rapid response activities. Unfortunately, we realized, there were businesses that were closing, and there were things that were happening that were causing downturns and causing businesses to have to kind of slow down their production. And that can create the issue where employees have to be laid off. And through our work and our partnership with the Texas Workforce Commission, we were able to talk more about shared work programs. We're able to help employers identify how to manage mass claims. And we're also looking at engaging employers on how to avoid layoff through resources like incumbent worker training or additional upskilling. So those are all resources that we bring to the table when an employer is facing a layoff. If an employer gets to the point where a layoff is imminent, then we kind of switch from layoff aversion and go into what we call rapid response. And this is where we provide services on site to employees prior to their layoff if possible, or now we do it virtually, to try to minimize the impact of that layoff and minimize the time that that employee is without employment. And during the rapid response timeframe, we might be talking about skill upgrading with employees. We might be talking about using our career lattices to identify transferable skills or transferable careers, and looking at different ways to help that employee get reconnected, either temporarily or on a permanent basis, with additional employment to kind of limit the unemployment insurance impact for that employer and that employee. Oops. Some other services that I think are really important to highlight are the connections that we have to grants and funding opportunities through Texas Workforce Commission. And I'm actually going to highlight 4, but the 2 on this slide are the Skills Development Fund COVID-19 Special Training Initiative. If you're familiar with Skills Development Fund training or grant opportunities in the past, these are typically cooperative agreements between a business as well as a training provider and Texas Workforce Commission, where the training provider is funding and providing the training for new or incumbent workers at the place of business so that the business can upskill or retool and either avoid a layoff or be able to be more marketable and more efficient in the new economy. The impact that we have is that we can facilitate the application process And we help identify, what potential industries or occupations or training providers might be appropriate to partner with for some of these Skills Development Fund grant opportunities. What's very specific about the COVID-19 Special Training Initiative is that this is funding that has been specifically identified as supporting COVID-19 retooling or recovery options for businesses. And an example of that would be, a business that has had to pivot. We've heard some distilleries that have pivoted to making hand sanitizer. So some of the cost of training or retooling that might go from, perhaps producing vodka to producing hand sanitizer would be the type of activity that this grant funding would be appropriate for. And there's other activities as well. That's just kind of one example that has come up, but there is still funding available for this, and we are still looking to connect businesses with this grant funding opportunity and with training providers to support those upskilling needs. The other option is Skills for Small Business. It's kind of similar to the Skills Development Fund initiative, but where Skills Development Fund requires a leverage or a match amount from employers, the Skills for Small Business grant funding does not necessarily require that same amount because it is uniquely identified at serving businesses with fewer than 100 employees. So this is a really important opportunity for a lot of the businesses in our areas because the training is more specific to the needs of that business. We understand that it's a smaller business. It may not necessarily meet all of the industry or occupational requirements in some of the other grant opportunities, but we're really interested in getting folks connected to that opportunity when it's appropriate. The final two grant opportunities that are available pre-COVID, post-COVID, and also during COVID are high demand job training grant opportunities. And so this is funding that will support collaboration between boards and economic development councils to provide high demand job training to individuals in the local workforce development area. But the connection to employers comes in determining what that high demand job training will be and what the employment opportunities will be after that. So even though the grant funding is not a specific funding to a private employer, it is still something that would benefit the employer community in a county or in an area. And then finally, Texas Industry Partnership. These support, again, collaborations between boards and industry partners to cover expenditures for occupational training, but this is focused on 6 designated industry clusters, and so it kind of matches the STEM industry and advanced manufacturing and oil and gas clusters that we see happen kind of consistently across the state. Right. So, I want to just take a moment to thank you for letting me talk today and letting me share some information about the opportunities for businesses that are available. I do think it's really nice to be able to look at the headlight and the different labor market information that's on our website, as well as our career lattices, to see kind of how those different occupations and industries interact with the local communities in Hays and Caldwell County. And I am happy to answer any questions that come up. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Lots of good information. And I wanted to insert that at the Greater San Marcos Partnership, we work with the Greater San Marcos Manufacturing Association, and we have taken on the Skills Development Fund COVID initiative to work with the Manufacturing Association specifically to assist them in making application for those kinds of grants to help them retool. So, you do not have to be a member of the Manufacturing Association to apply and to join our group. So if any manufacturers that are listening, or if you know of any that might like to be a part of this effort, we have a webinar that will be, excuse me, broadcasting on July 22nd at 2 p.m. And we're happy to get you those details, or you can look on the manufacturing website and that information is there. You just can Google Greater San Marcos Manufacturing Association and get there. So thank you so much, Diane. And I know that these employee issues have been foremost in the minds of employers, particularly since they have gotten to the point where they have to meet PPP obligations. Like, I have tried to bring my furloughed employees back and they're not coming back, or you know, my part-time employees are leaving me because unemployment pays more, and so on. Here to speak to some of these issues and more is Mr. Tommy Simmons. He is legal counsel from the office of TWC Commissioner Aaron Demerson. Tommy, I'm giving it over to you.
Oh, thank you very much, Barbara, and I appreciate being invited to speak today. Let me share my screen here. I've got a PowerPoint presentation here, and hopefully everybody can see that. All right. Can you see the PowerPoint presentation now?
Yes, we can.
All right. All right. So here is my contact information if anybody has any questions, and my email address is there. I welcome any questions via email, and the general email address for the Employer Commissioner's Office, employerinfo@twc.state.tx.us is there. And the toll-free number for employers is at the bottom left, and my direct number is at the bottom right. And let's see, I wanted to mention just real quick some statistics about unemployment claims. Y'all may have noticed that some unemployment claims have been filed in the state of Texas. That is a vast understatement. We've actually had a record number, the highest number of unemployment claims filed since the time of the Great Depression, which is when the unemployment compensation system was designed, was instituted in this country and in Texas in 1936. And we've had over 4 million claims filed so far. The agency has paid out over $19 billion worth of unemployment benefits in state and federal benefits. We have gotten up to 2.7 million calls every day. Right now, the call volume is a little bit less. It's only about 300,000 to 400,000 calls per day, but that still overwhelms the phone system. We've doubled our call centers from 4 to 8. We have hired massively to get more people on the phone to help claimants file their claims and employers deal with the claims. And we've got over 2,000 people working just on that. Weekly unemployment benefit payments exceeded $450 million during the height of the crisis, late April, early May. The previous record was $93 million. That was in July 2009 during the height of the Great Recession. Now, one of the most innovative programs available to help deal with reductions in hours is called a shared work plan. And in normal years, we have between 100 and 200 of those filed. This year alone, we've had over 2,500 of those so far. And it's a very innovative program. Basically, if an employer works out a shared work plan with the agency, then any employees who have their hours reduced between 10 and 40% can get the same share, the same percentage of their unemployment benefits that they would get if they were totally unemployed. And if they do that, they have more money each week than if they were simply unemployed. It's a very innovative plan. Mass claims can also be filed if there is a mass layoff situation, and the mass claims page on our website outlines the various steps, but it is a way for an employer to help a substantial number of affected employees file unemployment claims all at once. There is such a thing as partial unemployment. It is possible for a person to be partially employed, have a reduced schedule, and draw some unemployment benefits as well. This is for individuals whose hours have been cut by more than 40%, generally speaking. But if they do that, if they work the available hours and collect partial unemployment benefits, they will end up with 25% more money each week than if they were on total unemployment. Now, this does not include people who are on paid leave of any kind, nor does it include people who are being paid with PPP funds. PPP funds are used for payroll. Those are wages. And the people who are on PPP status, they can be considered as being on standby status. They can be asked to perform work while on standby status and receiving PPP funds. But generally speaking, they do not meet the technical definition of being unemployed. It's a very important issue whether the employer, whether the employee lists the correct last place of work. That determines who will get the notice of application for unemployment insurance benefits, and that individual, that party, has a great deal of say in whether there will be qualification or disqualifying for benefits. Monetary eligibility, that has to do with the basic requirement for filing a claim. A claim is disallowed if somebody is not monetarily eligible. And to be monetarily eligible in Texas, the claimant has to have had wages in at least 2 quarters in the base period of the claim. And the base period lags behind the time that the claim is filed. Up on the screen here, you see a basic chart of the base period in Texas. It doesn't include the quarter in progress when the claim is filed or the quarter immediately preceding that, but it's the year-long period that goes before that. And that base period wage total helps determine what the weekly benefit amount will be and the maximum benefit amount will be. Right now, the minimum weekly benefit amount in Texas is $69. The maximum weekly benefit amount is $521. Regular unemployment insurance, that depends upon the base period wages. The weekly benefit amount is going to be the base period wage amount in which the wages were the highest divided by 25. It can go no higher than $521. The maximum benefit amount is either 26 times the weekly benefit amount or 27% of the total base period wages, whichever is less. So in addition to regular unemployment insurance, there is a new federal benefit under the CARES Act, relatively new since early April, but basically that is for people who do not normally qualify for regular unemployment insurance, like independent contractors and sole proprietors. They can collect whatever their weekly benefit amount would be as determined by their 2019 earnings. And all the details of that are on the TWC website. Look under job seekers and sole proprietors and independent contractors, and you'll see the program information for this. This program runs through the end of this year under current law. Anybody who collects pandemic unemployment assistance can also get that extra $600 per week under the federal pandemic unemployment compensation program that expires at the end of this month. The federal pandemic unemployment compensation, FPUC, that's the $600 extra payment that is paid in addition to any benefit amount owing on any valid weekly claim filed under any unemployment insurance program under state or federal law. But it's time limited, and this is the month it runs out. It will, the last FPUC payment under current law will be made for the benefit week ending July 25th, unless it is extended by Congress. Congress may extend it, and there are negotiations going on right now between the House and the Senate on that. The extended benefits under the CARES Act are called pandemic emergency unemployment compensation. That's for somebody who has exhausted their regular unemployment benefits. Up to 13 weeks of PEUC benefits are available. It's the regular weekly benefit amount plus the FPUC amount, the $600 through the end of this month. Extended benefits have been triggered on for Texas. That's the regular unemployment benefit amount for an additional 13 weeks after the regular unemployment benefits have run out and the PEUC benefits under the CARES Act have run out. Then up to 13 weeks are available under extended benefits under Texas. And because we have had a period of high unemployment, 7 additional weeks are now available for somebody who exhausts all of those benefits, the regular unemployment, the PEUC benefits, the extended benefits. 7 additional weeks of benefits are available under current conditions. Chargeback protection. A lot of employers have wondered, whether they get chargeback protection. Yes, they do. Under current law, any work separation that resulted from the pandemic or COVID-19 will get chargeback protection for that employer. That applies to private taxed employers. That does not apply to reimbursing employers or government employers. For reimbursing employers, and that would be any reimbursing public entity or a nonprofit employer that qualifies for reimbursing status, there is a refund of 50% of the reimbursement liability paid back that can be given to the reimbursing employer. That's under the CARES Act. Under that procedure, the reimbursing employer would pay 100% of the reimbursing liability. TWC would give that information to the U.S. Department of Labor. The Department of Labor would send a payment for 50% of that amount out of CARES Act funds, and then the TWC would give that money back to the reimbursing employer. Work refusals. Some employers have reported that their employees don't want to come back to work because of various reasons, including they feel that they can get more money if they are on unemployment benefits. Any work refusal can be reported to the TWC, either by email at that email address shown at the top, or online at that web portal in the second bullet item there. Give as much specific information about the claimant and the situation as you can, and it will be investigated. Unless the claimant had good cause for turning down that job offer, then they will be disqualified for benefits. As far as eligibility issues, anybody who tries for benefits has to be medically able to work. Right now, under current conditions, the work search requirement is still in suspension. Claimants are not required to actively search for full-time work if they're collecting unemployment benefits. That will be revisited in late July. They have to be authorized to work in the United States, and they have to engage in whatever reemployment activities they may be directed to engage in. The work separation determines whether somebody will be qualified or disqualified. If they leave voluntarily, generally speaking, they would have to show that they had good cause connected with the work for quitting. If they leave involuntarily, the employer would have the burden of proving that misconduct connected with the work was the reason for the work separation. And under the FFCRA, getting to real quickly other issues, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, that's a federal law that went into effect on March 18th. And for anybody who qualifies, that would be somebody who's quarantined because of COVID-19, or they have symptoms and they're waiting a medical diagnosis, they can get 2 weeks of paid sick leave at their regular rate of pay. If they have other COVID-19 related reasons for being off, they can get paid sick leave at 2/3 of their regular rate of pay. Employees who have had at least 30 days on the job, they can get up to 10 weeks of expanded FMLA leave pay at 2/3 of their regular pay. If their child can't go to school or has no available child care. Any FFCRA paid leave benefits are recoverable via federal payroll tax credits. Tax rate impacts. Texas has had historically about the lowest unemployment tax rate in the country of any state. That could foreseeably go up for 2021. We still need to find out what's going to happen with the rest of the year. But there are various things that could modify the tax rate for next year, and that would be the replenishment tax, which is the minimum tax on all employers, the replenishment ratio, that's for employers that have had chargebacks over the past 3 years, the deficit tax, only if there's a deficit in the unemployment trust fund, the interest tax, only if we have to pay interest on a federal loan, which we do not. The advances that we've been using from the Department of Labor are interest free under the CARES Act through the rest of the year. And the obligation assessment tax is only if Texas issues bonds to repay loans. That is not in the works under current conditions. As far as fraud is concerned, claimants have to report any work and earnings while they're filing for claims. They have to report any work separations. If they are offered work and they don't accept it, they must report that. If they have any kind of eligibility condition that comes up, they are obligated to report that. And if they do not, that could lead to a fraud investigation. Reductions in hours or pay can lead to unemployment claims. TWC applies a 20% rule. Generally speaking, though, employers with this situation are probably already participating in a shared work plan. Either that or the claimant will qualify for partial unemployment benefits. If you're responding to an unemployment claim, always remember, respond to the claims. And if the work separation had anything to do with COVID-19 or the pandemic, please mention that. That can help you get chargeback protection. Okay, and Barbara, how am I doing on time?
Just a couple more minutes.
Okay,
And,
I'll very quickly mention severance pay because employers have talked about that. Severance pay can be disqualifying, but the employer would need to specify the dates of coverage. Okay, so sorry if I went over time, Barbara, but I'm definitely available for any questions.
I had a question, Tommy, because your slide about taxes I found very disturbing. So in your opinion, what do you think the chances are of employers seeing a tax increase to replenish the unemployment insurance fund?
Yes, ma'am. And I did not put that up there to disturb or scare or concern anyone. Very understandably, if you're thinking about your tax rate for next year, that's totally understandable. What's in the law is a matter of public record. In the law, if our unemployment insurance trust fund is depleted, there are two ways to replenish that. And one is the replenishment tax, which is the minimum tax that all employers have to pay. Right now, that replenishment tax is about $37 per employee per year. The other way is the replenishment ratio, which modifies an employer's benefit ratio if they have had chargebacks over the past 3 years. So those two mechanisms replenish the trust fund for chargebacks that cannot be effectively charged back to an individual employer because their account was protected, like a COVID-19 work separation. You get chargeback protection, but that means that it's an uncollectible chargeback. The uncollectible chargebacks are pooled at the end of every year, and they're basically socialized among all employers in Texas. That's in the law. It's been in the law since 1936. And so clearly, if a large number of employers have had their accounts protected from chargeback and the trust fund needs replenishing, something's going to need to happen with that replenishment tax. But we won't know what the effect of that will be until November of this year, when the tax department calculates the tax rates for all taxed employers in Texas, and that's almost 500,000 employers in Texas are private taxed employers. So it's important to note that the commissioners have the discretion under the law to adjust the replenishment tax based on their assessment of the economic situation in Texas. Historically, the commissioners have used their discretion to make adjustments in the replenishment tax to fit economic realities and what needs to happen. And that's going to be an informed discussion, taking all stakeholders into account. That's all I can say at this time, because I don't have a perfect crystal ball with me, and we're still about 4 months out now from that time when the tax rate will be computed. By that time, we'll have a better assessment. But you can look at the tax department website. They have a chart of historical tax rates. And to get an idea of what might happen for 2021, take a look back at the time of the Great Recession, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013, and see what happened in those years and in following years. And you'll see that the tax rate generally responds to the economy. And once the Great Recession was over, the tax rate responded to the Great Recession being over too.
Okay, good. Thank you. I know this is tax day, so I wanted to show some empathy, really, because it's a tough day for everybody.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is a time to ask questions if any of you in the audience have them. What have we got going? I know, Kelly, you have fielded some questions. Are there any additional ones? Katie, do you see any that have come through either in?
We have answered the questions that have come through. So please, by all means, anyone ask questions.
Okay. While we're waiting for that, I'm going to ask the participants that are on to go ahead and complete our quick session evaluation, which is in the form of a poll. So I'm going to put this out there. It's only got 4 questions. It'll only take you a second. So if you'd please complete that, we'd appreciate it. I'm going to give you about a minute to do that. And at the same time, if you have any questions you'd like to pose to the panelists, you can do that as well.
Barbara, I've had a couple of people ask about access to the slides. Are we putting these up on the Greater San Marcos website?
What we're going to be doing, we are recording this session as a video, and that video will be posted on YouTube, and that YouTube link will be available on the Greater San Marcos Partnership website, and we can send it out as well to all of the participants that are on this webinar. So you'll personally get a link.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, you got a few more seconds for you to complete your poll. While you're completing that, just a reminder that we're on same time next week with the SBDC, with SCORE, People Fund, Lift Fund, and Workforce Solutions on business resiliency. And I think Joe mentioned that certainly a stage in their business coaching and counseling, long-term strategies for growth and resiliency, important. Okay, I'm going to end the polling. Hopefully you're done. And that's that. Okay, any final questions before we say thank you? Thank you very much to our presenters. You all were just wonderful, and I really appreciate the time that you put into your presentations and to be here with us. Thank you again, and I'm sure we'll have you back. Don't know when, but we will have you back. Appreciate it. And thank you to our participants for being with us today. Hopefully, see you next week. Sign up for it. Take care. Bye now.
Thank you again for having me, and take care.
Thank you, Barbara.
Bye now.
Thank you.